For the past 2 years, I've been working as a mortician at a funeral home in a small town. I actually love it here. I listen to lots of audiobooks. My boss is great, and I don't mind the company of the dead. They're quiet, and they're not trying to sell me something, which is a lot more than I can say for most of the living. I also feel like preparing the bodies for burial is an act of respect, a service to the community, something that gives my life meaning. Without a doubt, working here was the best job I'd ever had, until we started getting the smiling corpses. I don't know when it started exactly. 3 weeks ago, I think, although time has been passing strangely since it all began. When it started, of course, not all the bodies were smiling. It was just 1 or 2. Then we started getting more and more of them, and everything began to spiral out of control. To be clear, yes, I know that sometimes the deceased appear to be smiling slightly. Sometimes their facial features are built that way, sort of a resting, happy face. Sometimes we even turn their lips up a little to make their faces seem more familiar, more alive, instead of the cold mask of death. But these bodies weren't smiling slightly. No, they were full-on grins, stretching dead skin to the corners of their mouths. They were grotesque. The first one came on a cold, rainy day. Her name was Amber, and she was 31 years old, much younger than the bodies I usually worked with. She'd died of a sudden blood clot. As much as I liked my job, I hated dealing with the younger ones. Before I even unzipped the body bag, I was imagining the small children she may have left behind, the aging parents grieving their daughter, the friends and family mourning a life gone too soon. I extinguished the thoughts and got to work. I turned on the light, rolled the steel bed a little closer to me, and reached for the body bag's zipper. But when I unzipped her, I froze. She was smiling. Her lips were pressed tightly together, covering her teeth, and the corners of her mouth sharply curved upwards. An expression like that wouldn't just require you to move your facial muscles, it would require you to hold them like that. I quickly unzipped the rest of the bag, but she was definitely dead. Her skin was as white as marble. Her eyes were closed. Her lips were blue. What the fuck? Maybe she was somehow alive? Hands shaking, I gently touched her lips, then her cheeks. Her skin was so cold. I reached into the body bag and pulled out her bony wrist, checking for a pulse. There wasn't any. Now, if I weren't a mortician, I'd be thinking, no big deal, she died smiling, and rigor mortis set in. But I knew that was impossible. Rigor mortis takes hours. If she died smiling, her face would naturally relax into a neutral setting before everything went stiff. I stood there, my head spinning. There was no way she was alive. But there was no way she could be grinning like this, dead. Not knowing what else to do, I called my boss in. He looked just as confused as I was. Maybe she had some sort of deformity, he said. And this is her natural expression. I don't think so. The next theory was that the coroner was doing it before the bodies got to us. Maybe it was a prank, or maybe he thought he was helping us, making the bodies look a little less dead. He was a bit odd, so it wasn't out of the question. But even if he made them smile, the smile would fade before they got here, I pointed out. That's it for part 1. Tell me if you want part 2.